Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Odds Now for the latest episode of our Premier League betting show. Before we get into all of the games today, you can probably see there's a slight change on screen. Matt's away sunning himself on holiday, so we've brought in an adequate replacement in Connor, who you might know from the old Football Nowadays. He's going to take Matt's place this weekend and bring up some of his own selections.
I'll do a better job.
Yeah, fingers crossed. See if he can bring some value to the show. We won't show Matt that part. We're going to try and keep it under 30 minutes as well as we have done the last couple of weeks. We're going to run through each of the 10 Premier League games. I'll do 5, Connor will do 5, alternating each way. And we'll pick out a couple of bets that we think stand out to us ahead of the weekend's matches. We'll dive straight into it this weekend. Connor's going to start us off with the early kickoff in London. 2 London sides facing off with West Ham versus Chelsea at 12:30. Connor, talk us through this one.
Yeah, I've gone with the old rule of never back the early kickoff, so on to the next game. With this one, I'm not expecting a lot of goals. It's a London derby, but I feel like it's going to be tense and cagey. Chelsea's goal record this season is a little bit skewed because they scored 6 against Wolves. But other than that, 8 goals in 4 games. So, they've scored 6 against Wolves. So they've only scored 2 goals in the 2 remaining games. So I really don't like them moving forward. There's a lot of uncertainty about Chelsea. It has been for a number of seasons now. And there probably will be until really the end of the season. There's been that much change and turmoil. And West Ham as well. They got 2 goals versus Crystal Palace, but other than that, they failed to find the back of the net multiple times this season. So I've gone for, there's 2 ones here, both relating to the goals market, either under 2.5 goals, and you can find that at about 8-5, or if you're feeling that you want to go a little bit further than that, at nearly 3-1, you can find 0-0 at half-time. Like I said, I really don't expect a whole lot of goals. Fulkrug is out for West Ham. It could be out. It is a doubt. I don't think it's going to be a huge issue. He wasn't really starting in a way, not really been firing when he has been playing. Antonio, he's the very, very definition of inconsistent, and that entire Chelsea team are. So I'm not expecting a goal fest. Under 2.5 goals or 0-0 at half-time are the best bets for me.
Okay, and we will be bringing up all of our best bets at the end of this video as well once we ran through to the 10 games. And I'll move on now to the first of the 3 o'clock kickoffs on Saturday afternoon. Aston Villa versus Wolves, a nice West Midlands derby for everyone to dive into. I think it's fair to say these 2 sides are enjoying opposite runs of form at the minute. Villa are on a roll, given their stunning 3-2 comeback win over Everton last weekend, 2-0 down, of course, but all 3 points were secured after a stunning John Duran goal off the bench. He's been in brilliant form this season. We'll talk about him more in a moment. They followed that up with a 3-0 win in the Champions League versus Young Boys last night. We're filming this on Wednesday afternoon. Villa 3-0 winners out there in Switzerland to get off to the perfect start in the Champions
League. Stadium.
Yeah. No comment. Moving on. And Wolves, meanwhile, they have been struggling for form. I think it's fair to say they've lost 3 and drawn 1 of their first 4 Premier League matches. We don't know the result of their League Cup tie at Brighton tonight, of course. Like I said, we're filming on Wednesday afternoon. But we do know the result of their last Premier League outing, and it was a 2-1 home defeat to Newcastle, the first time they've lost to the Magpies at home in 7 years. They did lead for a well-worked Mario Lemina goal up until around the 75th minute when 2 quick-fire goals from Newcastle saw them suffer another defeat in cruel fashion. I think it's fair to say manager Gary O'Neill must be wondering when he and his side are going to catch a break this season. They travel to an informed Villa side whose only loss came at 2-0 in the 2-0 defeat, to Arsenal on the second week of the Premier League season. I'd love to be able to cheer Wolves fans up here, but I can't see anything other than a home win again here for Villa. They won this fixture, 2-0 last season in March, and Wolves' only away defeat. Wolves' only away defeat versus Villa in their last 5 matches, but they have now won just one of their last 14 matches in the Premier League overall. Wolves, 10 of them have ended in defeat. They're also winless in their last 7, 6 of those which ended in defeat. And no side in the Premier League has lost more games since the start of March than Wolves. There is some hope for Wolves fans that they might have something to cheer about this weekend. Villa have not kept a clean sheet in the last 6 Premier League matches at home, though the last one did come in that 2-0 win against Wolves. Villa have also not kept a Premier League clean sheet so far this season. Wolves have also scored in the last 3 Premier League matches since the 2-0 defeat to Arsenal on the opening day of the season. So you can probably guess where I'm going here. I think Villa's quality will ultimately shine through, but I'm going to be going with them to win with both teams scoring. That comes in at 2-1. Generally, that would be my main bet, but I'm also going to stick up a little player prop too. John Duran has been grabbing the headlines early this season. He scored 3 goals in the Premier League so far, all from the bench, including that stunning winner versus Everton. He also had a lovely goal ruled out versus Young Boys last night in the Champions League. He comes in a little bit wider, 41-20, just over 2-1, due to the fact he's not going to be expected to start ahead of Ollie Watkins, who's of course Villa's main striker, but that hasn't held him back so far. So I'm also going to stick that up there as a little player prop for you to dive into. We'll move on to another 3 o'clock kickoff now. Fulham versus Newcastle. Connor, do you want to talk us through that?
Not too dissimilar with what you went with there. I've got with a player result on both, a team result on both teams to score. Originally, I went with Newcastle to win at just over evens, but I've got Newcastle to win and both teams to score. That's 3-1. Now, Fulham have scored in every single game this season, apart from when they fired a blank in the opening game of the season at Old Trafford. Newcastle, I don't think they've been too impressive, but they've been getting the wins. 4 games, they've won 3, they've drawn 1. There was a little bit of a doubt about Isak. He's picked up an eye injury, went off, I think it was against Wolves. But I think that's fine because they brought on Harvey Barnes, Anthony Gordon, through the middle, Barnes on the wing, he scored as well. So if they have to do that, Wilson's not going to be back. If they do have to do that, then that's perfectly fine. We'll probably find out more tonight about whether Isak is going to be fit enough to play some part. But I feel like against a top side, that may come back to bite them. But I think Newcastle are still going to be too strong for Fulham. Plus, it's a very, very comfortable place for them to go. They've won the last 5 at Craven Cottage. Fulham, I'm not going to say they're going to be in trouble this season, but I feel like it is going to be lackluster. I feel like probably is a season where they are going to be looking a little bit behind them rather than a little bit forward. I think they've made some good signings in Reece Nelson and Emil Smith-Rowe. Not being biased because I'm an Arsenal fan, but they are really good signings. And they impressed as well in the game yesterday. Reece Nelson opened his account. I know they went out. But yeah, I mean, I am impressed with what Newcastle are doing this season with the results. I think they will get better. And I think with or without Isak, could do back them to get the win. But I think Fulham will still find the back of the net. So 3-1, Newcastle to win and both teams to score.
Okay, back to me at the St Mary's Stadium. Southampton versus Ipswich, as you can see there. I think this is the first meeting between any of the 3 newly promoted sides this season. They've both struggled so far. Southampton are still without a point after losing 3-0 to Man United last weekend. They are, however, buoyed by a penalty shootout win at Everton in the League Cup on Tuesday, though. And there were positive signs too in the first 30 minutes of that game versus Man United. Cameron Archer, of course, missing a penalty, but then the tide did turn quickly after that with Matthijs de Ligt opening the scoring, and Southampton, their head soon dropped. And like I said, they eventually gone to lose 3-0. They'll also be without captain Jack Stevens, who was handed a straight red card in the latter stages of that win over United. They face an Ipswich side who do have 2 points to their name. Both of those come in their last 2 matches. They drew at home to Fulham, 1-1 at home to Fulham, Matchday 3, and then 0-0 away at Brighton last time out. The latter point particularly was a very impressive one given the start Brighton have made under Fabian Hurtzler. Kieran McKenna therefore must be very, very happy with those results. They had a tough start with games against Liverpool and Man City, but now they've taken points in both of their last 2 Premier League matches, and so I'm sure they'll be fancying their chances here of perhaps nicking all 3 against a weak-looking Southampton side who, like I said, are still yet to get off the mark in the Premier League. They did also do the double over Southampton last season in the Championship, winning 1-0 away and then 3-2 at home. I do have a feeling this one could be a little cagey, though. I don't think any of these 2 sides will want to lose this one as a potential relegation 6-pointer already here. Southampton are desperate to get off the mark, and a loss could prove vital in terms of where both of these 2 sides stand at the end of the season. And as I said, I'm going to be expecting a little bit of a cagey affair as a result, with a tight game, with the potential of both sides being satisfied with a point. So I'm going to go with under 2.5 goals at this one. For this one, it comes in at 11-10, just over evens generally. I just got a feeling, we could be in for a quiet afternoon here with both sides looking to avoid defeat rather than go on and snatch up their first wins of the season. We'll go back to Connor again for another 3 o'clock kickoff, this time Tottenham versus Brentford. I'm sure he's not biased by his Arsenal links. We're trying to talk us through this one, Connor.
No, not biased at all. I've gone with the Brentford window. Getting a Brentford win at 19-4. It's pretty much 5-1. I've not been impressed by Tottenham this season. I've not been impressed by Ange Postecoglou at all. And I think a telling thing, and me and you were speaking about this, is that you listen to his post-match interviews. There's a lot of negativity, a lot of defensiveness, and pretty similar to Man United, and that radiates throughout the dressing room, and that translates to on the pitch. On paper, they've got a great attacking quarterlet going forward. They've got Kulusevski, they've got Son, they've got James Maddison, they've got Solanke, they've brought it from Bournemouth. He was prolific last season, but they just can't gel. They can't find the back of the net. They didn't really look like scoring, to be honest, against Arsenal. I know Arsenal defensive, absolutely superb, but that would have really hurt them. The third consecutive home North London derby defeat. But Brentford, we saw it last week. They lost 2-1 at the Etihad to Manchester City. Every time they go to these big stadiums, whether it's Anfield, the Emirates, the Etihad, whether they go to Spurs, Chelsea, they don't hold any fear. And I think that's what you need. If you are going to lose, have a go. And I think if Brentford can have a go, then I think they will score against this Tottenham side. I don't think they've missed tone. I think Mbwepo and Vissa have really stepped up. Vissa is unfortunately out for 2 months, and that could be a big miss because they've both scored 3 goals this season. But I expect Carvalho will come in. I really rate him as a player. Came from Liverpool, and I think he will do well. So I think at 5-1, you are getting quite a bit of value there. What I would say is I would probably put it on with Bet365 just because you've got that early payout there where if Brentford do lead by 2 goals. We do know that Spurs do love a bit of a comeback. They've shown that quite a few times this season. So if you are going to cover the Brentford victory, I would just cover yourself there and go with Bet365 for the early payout. But a nearly 5-1, Brentford to beat Tottenham in their home ground.
Okay, back to me with another promoted side now in Leicester City hosting an Everton side. I think it's fair to say both of these two are also struggling. They both threw away 2-goal leads last week in the Premier League, and we'll start with Leicester first. Like I said, with the other promoted side, they drew 1-1 with Spurs on the opening day, but in reality they got battered in that first hour and were fortunate to come away with a draw. They then lost to both Fulham and Villa before drawing 2-2 at Crystal Palace last weekend. Like I said, they did lead 2-0. Jamie Vardy getting another goal for them in the Premier League. How vital is he going to be for them this season? But they are too searching for their in the Premier League since their Premier League return. And they will be boosted by the news that they won't be facing any points deductions, at least for the time being, for potential PSR breaches. And I'm sure they'll be more encouraged when they look at the team that they'll be standing opposite this weekend in Everton. Like I said, an Everton side in turmoil. Not only have they surrendered 2-0 leads to lose 3-2 in their last 2 Premier League matches, but as I touched upon when we were discussing Southampton, they also suffered a penalty shootout defeat to the Saints in their final League Cup game, at Goodison Park on Tuesday night. The confidence of the players and the supporters seems to be at an all-time low. One potential pick-me-up for them is their recent record versus Leicester. Could be a potential reason for optimism. Leicester have won just one of their last 7 matches versus Everton, drawing 3 and losing 3. Everton have also had little trouble scoring goals in recent weeks, which is something they have struggled with in the past. The problem has been at the back and defending the leads once they do get ahead, as we saw in the games against Bournemouth and Aston Villa. They are playing away from Goodison this weekend, which it could lead to them playing with a little bit more freedom, to be honest, with a little less pressure away from the home crowd, who haven't been the most encouraging, let's say, in the recent weeks. Understandable given the performances on the pitch, not blaming the Everton fans at all. And I know they did lose to Villa away last time out, but that's a very good Villa side, one of the best in the Premier League, and the same certainly can't be said of this Leicester team. I'm going to put my neck on the line here and back Everton on the draw no bet line. So that means if it ends in a draw, you do get your stake back. And the reason for that is that 16 of their 34 meetings in the Premier League have ended in draws, most of any fixture in the Premier League's history, which has been played more than 30 times. But I have been encouraged by what I've seen from Everton going forward, at least in recent weeks. Like I said, Dominic Calvert-Lewin scored in their last 2 games. He's going to be vital for them if they are to find more goals this season. And I'm just not encouraged by this Leicester side. Before the start of the season, I wrote a piece for Odds Now. I tipped Steve Cooper to be the first man to be sacked. I certainly think he'll be leading or among the first names to be dismissed this season if their form carries on. He's certainly not helped with his links to Nottingham Forest. But yes, I'm going to go with an Everton on the draw no bet line. That comes in evens generally across the board there. Back to Connor now with the 5:30 kickoff on Saturday evening. Crystal Palace versus Manchester. No, not back to Connor. That's me getting my mix up. The final 3 o'clock kickoff. I had a little bit of a brain fart there. Liverpool versus Bournemouth at Anfield. Connor looked confused there himself, but yeah.
I was zoning out, to be honest, but I'm glad you made a mistake. Liverpool Bournemouth. I've gone for Mohamed Salah to score at least 2 goals. Now he likes playing against Bournemouth. In 9 appearances, he's got 9 goals and 1 assist. Now, weirdly, you know, at Anfield last season, they won 9-0 against Bournemouth, and Mo Salah didn't get a single goal on an assist, which is quite encouraging, actually, because it shows that he's not been stat padding. You know, he does like playing against Bournemouth. Those goals are spread out. He's not been prolific yet this season, but he will be because he always is. And I think he's been playing well without necessarily getting a goal or an assist. He played well yesterday against Atalanta in the Champions League and didn't get a goal. So that's encouraging. You know, I don't think that the confidence is going to be low. You know he's going to get chances, and you know he's going to be looking for a goal to keep firing away. Bournemouth, you know, I like Bournemouth, and I think Areola's done a fantastic job, you know, this season and last season as well. But, you know, when you come to Anfield, there's always a question mark, isn't there, when a Jurgen Klopp, like when Wenger and Alex Ferguson left, but I think Arne Slot has come in. I don't think you can read too much into the result last week against Forest. Sometimes those results do happen, and it can just be a bit of a one-off. I am going to chalk it down to a bit of a one-off as well, and I think having that game midweek actually really, really helped them against AC Milan. Tough away European game. So to have that game to really bounce back and get that confidence flowing, and just to show, yeah, it is a bit of a one-off. So, yeah, I think Mo Salah, you're getting the odds at 9-2. And I think Mo Salah at 9-2 to score at least 2 goals. Or if you wanted to go a little bit further, there's 20-1 on a Mo Salah hat-trick. So that is what I'm going with. If he doesn't score at all, I will be very, very surprised. Like I said, he does like scoring against Bournemouth. He's a prolific goal scorer. He is going to end the Premier League season on over 20 goals, barring injury. And expect he'll get at least a couple today or tomorrow or Saturday, whenever the game is. 3:00 Saturday. There it is on the screen.
Right, and back to me now with Crystal Palace versus Manchester United. Like I said, the 5:30 game on Saturday evening. We spoke in previous weeks, Matt and I, about the promise shown by Crystal Palace since Oliver Glasner's appointment in February. But they have since lost several key figures in the summer, and they cut the appearance of a side that's trying to find its feet once again. But they did fight back, as touched upon when talking about Leicester, in the 2-2 draw versus Leicester last week at Selhurst Park. And a positive too would have been the return to form of Jean-Philippe Mateta, who's now off the mark after scoring twice against the Foxes, including the 92nd minute penalty to equalise last weekend. They're still awaiting their first win in the Premier League this season, but did beat QPR 2-1 in the League Cup on Tuesday night, with Eddie Nketiah, who of course was signed from Arsenal at the end of the summer, off the mark there too. And I'm sure they'll be taking confidence from a resounding 4-0 win over Man United in this fixture last season. During the latter stages of last season, of course, it was a brilliant performance, one of the best since Glasner took the reins at Selhurst Park. And Man United, meanwhile, they've made a poor start, and they lost 2 of their first 3 matches in the Premier League, but they did return to winning ways against Southampton last time out, and also beat Barnsley 7-0 in the League Cup. I don't know if you can read too much into that result, given the quality of the opposition that they were facing. But Marcus Rashford now, after those 2 games, does have 3 in his last 2, which would be a major boost to him and to the side to see him regain his confidence. They've also kept consecutive clean sheets, which also would have been encouraging when you consider the calamitous defending we saw on their 3-0 defeat to Liverpool on Matchday 3. I'm certainly not willing to back a Man United win here, by the way. I need to see a lot more from them before I'm convinced that they can.
He's never backed United, Man United within the past 2 years.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm certainly not going to be breaking that habit. I need to see more from them before I'm convinced that they can consistently pull out results. And come in at 6-4 odds against favourites at the time of recording. I don't think there's value there at all in backing them, even though Palace haven't been encouraging themselves. I'm just not convinced by this United side under Erik ten Hag. We were talking off screen, Connor, about his potential future. Don't think it lies at Man United in the long term, to be honest, given the way last season ended. And so therefore I'm going to be going down the player prop lines instead. Kobbie Mainoo, the young Man United midfielder, one of the few bright sparks in a struggling Man United side in the last 18 months, I think it's fair to say. He has been booked in each of their last 3 Premier League matches. He's brilliant on the ball, of course, but he's also expected to break up play in a heavily criticised Man United midfield. He could be potentially partnered by new signing Manuel Ugarte, who just came in from PSG. And whoever it is that's partnering Mainoo in midfield, they'll have their work cut out. Crystal Palace have averaged 63% possession in their 2 home matches so far in the Premier League. Like I said, they'll be eager to pick up their first win in the league, and they could still potentially smell blood from United's early performances this season. They weren't convincing in the first half an hour against Southampton either, before they did open the scoring and then took control of that game. But as I touched upon there, Palace's domination of the ball at home, it leaves Mainu and whoever's partnering with lots of work to do. They need to win that midfield battle against Adam Wharton and Cheick Doucouré in the Palace midfield. Coupled, as I said, with Mainu's yellow card record this season, I think there's plenty of value at him being shown a card, which comes in at 10-3 generally at the time of recording. So I think, certainly a fair price when you consider all the factors that I've discussed there. We'll move on to Sunday's games now. Connor is going to talk us through the game at the Amex, kicking off at 2 p.m. as you can see there. Brighton versus Nottingham Forest. Connor, what's your thoughts for this one?
Yeah, tough one. This probably spent the longest amount of time on this. Anything I've thought of, there just weren't enough values really tempt me. In the end, I've gone with a goal scorer market, and I've gone with Chris Wood to score at any time, which is 3-1, which I think is pretty decent. He scored 14 Premier League goals last season. He is the main man for Nottingham Forest. Started every Premier League game this season. In four games, he scored 2 goals, one in one and one in the other. So it's not like he's fired a blank in 3 games or anything like that. But the thing that's really encouraging for me is that he's got the 3rd most shots on target this season after Erling Haaland and Mo Salah. So if you've got to win the raffle, you've got to buy a ticket, and Chris Wood is certainly doing that. And I think Brighton are going to be extra motivated because last week it was a poor result, really. If you're at home against a promoted side against Ipswich and it's 0-0, you are going to be a little bit more motivated. So if Forest can frustrate them and Brighton do start throwing a few more men forward, that could give Chris Wood a few more chances. I think Wood is going to get chances anyway. So I think at 3-1 to score at any time in the match, I think is quite generous. Like I said, 14 Premier League goals last season, tons of Premier League experience. He knows where the back of the net is. Like I said, I don't think there was loads of value in this. I was looking at the corner market. I was looking at the cards market. Not really a whole lot there. So, yeah, I think Chris Wood, like I said, 3rd most shots on target this season. So he's certainly asking questions of the keeper. 3-1. That's what I'm going with.
Okay, moving on to the final game of the weekend, and certainly the biggest at the top end of the table. Manchester City versus Arsenal, a massive game in the Premier League title race, even though we're only 5 games in. Connor's got his Arsenal shirt on. We're in this ridiculous predicament now, aren't we, where even, like I said, 5 games in, this game already feels as though it could have a huge impact on where the title ends up this season. We'll start with Man City, the hosts, who have been very, very impressive early on again. They maintained their 100% winning start of a 2-1 win over Brentford last time out. Erling Haaland's been in scintillating form, hasn't he? He's got 9 goals already in the Premier League, and he also has 2 goals in his 4 Premier League matches against Arsenal since joining City. City also playing the Champions League tonight. They play at Inter Milan at home. Of course, we don't know the result of that because of the time that we're recording.
Arsenal play on Thursday in the Champions League. They'd have to travel away at the Etihad. Make it make sense. Sorry.
Yeah, Connor's rants over there. We'll move on. We'll move on to his beloved Arsenal. We were also confident after a win over Tottenham last weekend, 1-0 win thanks to a Gabriel header in the second half. They've been superb defensively. That was their 7th clean sheet in the last 10 Premier League matches. They also drew 0-0 at the Etihad last season. Some criticised it, question whether they should have gone for more. Will that impact their approach this weekend? We'll see. As we say, both of these sides do play in the Champions League before kickoff on Sunday afternoon. Look at Arsenal's record, though, at the Etihad, and it's certainly not encouraged, Connor. I'm sorry to say. They've been pretty dismal at that venue in the Premier League.
A recent record, like you said, 0-0 last season. Good point.
They've not won there since a 2-0 victory in January 2015. The 0-0 draw there last season was the first time they'd not lost in their previous 7 encounters there. That's reflected in the betting odds, where Arsenal come in at 18-5 underdogs, and that's a little bit too wide given the strength of Mikel Arteta's side. But it does speak to the quality of Manchester City, though, who have not lost at home in the Premier League to anyone since November 2022 when they lost to Brentford. But this Arsenal side certainly much better than the Arsenal team City would have faced during that period, like I said, since their last win at the Etihad, and they've established themselves as true title contenders over the last 2 seasons. They also took 4 points from Man City last season. They were unlucky not to win the Premier League. Many are tipping them to go one better and win it this time around. I think avoiding defeat here will be important if they do that. City, I also feel, will be content with a point after their positive start. Given the impressive defensive records of both as well, I expect another low-scoring encounter. I think there's plenty of value under 2.5 goals at 10-11, but I'm going to be going with the draw at 11-4 for all the reasons listed above. As we said, they drew 0-0 early this year and last season in the running in the title running. Sorry, and I'm going to think they're going to be the same here again. Neither side will really want to lose this match, and I think they can both afford to draw after the positive starts they've made to give them a strong chance of kicking on moving forward. So yeah, that's where I'm going to be going for this one. 11-4.
I think 18-5 though for the Arsenal win. Erling Haaland has nightmares about Gabriel and William Saliba. Erling Haaland cannot beat Big Willie.
Right, we'll clip that up when he's got a hat-trick this weekend, I'm sure. But that concludes anyway our preview of the 10 games. Like I said, we will run you through all of our best bets quickly. We've managed to do well as well, only at 25 minutes, which is we've stuck to our aim there of keeping it to under half an hour. So we'll get them on screen now. Connor's best Premier League bet, so he's going to go for under 2.5 goals. West Ham, Chelsea, also 0-0 at half-time, coming in at just short of 3-1. Newcastle to beat Fulham with both teams scoring at 3-1. Brentford to win with a surprise upset at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, at 19-4. Mohamed Salah to score 2 or more goals at Anfield against Bournemouth, a side he seems to enjoy finding the net, back of the net against. And Chris Wood to score any time at 3-1 against Brighton. He's been in great form so far this season for an encouraging Nottingham Forest side. Moving on to my best bets of the weekend. Aston Villa to win and both teams scoring against Wolves comes in at 2-1. John Duran as well, also made habit of finding the back of the net to score any time at 41-20. I think it's a great price. Under 2.5 goals in a tentative match between Southampton and Ipswich at the bottom of this Premier League table. I'm going to tentatively as well back Everton on the draw no bet line away at Leicester. Kobbie Mainoo to be shown a card in the game between Crystal Palace and Man United, and Man City versus Arsenal to draw. Connor, before we end things here quickly, out of those 5 that you've picked there, which one would you be most confident in, would you say?
I mean, well, there's 2 that's drawing my eyes, really. I think Mo Salah to score 2 goals against Bournemouth. Like I said, he's got a fantastic record against Bournemouth. At Anfield as well, he's playing well enough without necessarily getting the results, and he's taken the most shots on target this season, apart from Erling Haaland. So I'm liking that one, nearly 5-1, but also 0-0 at halftime between Chelsea and West Ham, nearly 3-1 on a game which I really will think be low score. I think it'll be cagey. I don't trust either of their forwards. So those 2 for me are really drawing my eye.
Yeah, looking at mine now, most confident, I'll probably go with the Villa one, with both teams scoring. Like I said, given their recent form, and John Duran as well has been brilliant for them. We'll pull them off screen. Now that does conclude our preview for the Premier League games this weekend. Let us know your thoughts down below in the comments. Be sure to check out oddsnow.com as well. We have plenty of written content previewing the Premier League and all the other competitions across a host of sports. A big weekend of boxing as well. We'll be sure to be back with a boxing video over the next day or 2 ahead of Anthony Joshua's fight with Daniel Dubois this weekend. So stay tuned for that. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe to Odds Now, and we will see you in the next one.